Shon, we asked you to give us the top 5 storylines for this upcoming season. Let's roll through them right now. At number 5, your focus is on Tim Miles' squad. How come?
This is a team that was 13-5 in the conference a year ago. They fell short of the NCAA tournament because they did not have enough opportunities in conference play to get some quality wins, and they dropped a heartbreaking loss at home to Kansas. You return James Palmer, you return Isaac Copeland, you return your point guard Glenn Watson, and you return a guy who I feel has the potential to be an all-conference player in Isaiah Roby. A lot to like in Lincoln. The schedule will not hold them back this year. They have a lot of opportunities to build quality quadrant 1 and 2 wins.
Which is what they needed, and it's what they were missing last year, which is why they remained just off of the NCAA tournament bubble. At number 5, at number 4, you're focusing on a couple teams that seem to getting back to full health.
Wisconsin comes to mind right away. You return an outstanding player in Ethan Happ, but he was really by himself a lot of times on the offensive end of the floor because of injuries. You get Demetric Trice back. You get a guy like Kobe King back. You have a guy in Aleem Ford who shot the ball very well from the perimeter. There's a lot to like. They're going to be right in the NCAA tournament play and discussion as the season unfolds, and Minnesota will get healthy. They had not just injuries, but off-the-court injuries or issues last year with Reggie Lynch. Having a guy back like Amir Coffey healthy for long periods of time, as well as Dupree McBlair, and a guy in Jordan Murphy. I think he continues to get overlooked, Mike. 24 double-doubles, led the nation in that category, led the conference in rebounding, and averaged a double-double on the year. This is a team that if they're able to put some pieces together and get some consistent three-point shooting, both of those squads in Madison and the Twin Cities have to feel very good about their opportunities this season.
Right, especially that Brad Davison. I mean, he got into a position where he was blowing up in February because the 2 guys ahead of him were hurt. What a difference.
Really with one arm himself.
Right, that's right, because of his shoulder and everything. All right, at number 3, you have questions that need to be answered at 3 big programs.
Well, I think with Purdue, you have a great player coming back in Carson Edwards, but you lose 4 seniors, which allowed you to be one of the leaders nationally in terms of three-point shooting and assist-to-turnover ratio. Who's able to step in and fill those roles? For Penn State, you lose the conference's leading scorer in Tony Carr. How do you play differently? You have a lot to like coming back there in the form of Josh Reeves, Lamar Stevens, and Mike Watkins, but how do you replace that point guard position? And then, you know, with a team like Michigan, Mike, you lose a lot. You lose a guy like Mo Wagner, who was so efficient and versatile on the offensive end of the floor. Are they able to maintain their defensive intensity while plugging in some things on the offensive end of the floor? Chances and statistics say that they will, because this is an outstanding defensive team and they value the basketball. I expect guys like Xavier Simpson to assume more of an offensive role.
Your number 2 storyline this upcoming season is the number 1 recruit headed into the Big Ten. And we talk, it's not just how good he can be, but what it means for the future of Archie Miller in Indiana, too.
Yeah, it was really important and vital, not necessarily vital, but very important that Romeo Langford choose Indiana. Not just because of what he can do on the floor, but the fact that he was an Indiana bred product. This is probably their biggest recruit since Cody Zeller, another Mr. Basketball, decided to stay and attend campus in Bloomington. But he'll be able to provide them some versatility on the outside in terms of shooting the basketball. We talked about it during the Coach Miller segment. They struggled on the three-point line both offensively and defensively. He will provide some versatility from behind the arc and allow guys like a Juwan Morgan to continue his continued success and growth. Devontae Green was a guy that I thought got better as the season unfolded, especially in terms of his decision-making. You get Deron Davis back, more of a post presence. You can play through him for periods of time. So there are a lot of things to keep an eye on, but keep an eye on Justin Smith. This was a guy that kind of flew under the radar. He is an outstanding athlete. I expect him to take a big leap.
You mentioned Cody Zeller in 2011. That was not only the last time Indiana had a Mr. Basketball Indiana come to the Hoosiers, it was also the last time they had a top 10 recruit nationally come to the Hoosiers. Your number 1 storyline is the team that you think is the favorite to win the league this year.
I'm staying with the Michigan State Spartans. They were 16-2 in the conference a year ago. And yes, this will be a completely different team, Mike. You're not going to be the same team when you lose 2 lottery picks in the form of Miles Bridges and Jaren Jackson, but you do have your backcourt coming back. Cassius Winston led the conference in assists, led the conference in three-point shooting percentage. Joshua Langford is a senior, showed the ability to be a double-digit scorer. Matt McQuaid also provides some experience. And Nick Ward, I think, will come back rejuvenated. He tested the NBA waters. He's going to come back in better shape. They'll be able to play through him, and he will not be alone alone on that front line, even though they lost a lot with the aforementioned Bridges and Jackson moving on, they did get some quality minutes last year for a guy named Xavier Tillman, who will be able to provide some inside presence, and is usually the case in East Lansing, a highly acclaimed recruiting class will join that group.
We've talked a lot about one of the big changes this year, the league going to 20 games instead of 18. The last thing I have for you is the other big change in college basketball is the RPI is gone. The NCAA evaluation tool, NET, is now in its place. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's an algorithm, and they say it's not a formula. I'm no math genius, I'm no genius, period, but an algorithm is still a form of a formula. The RPI was only a measuring tool. It was something that they used. I think its impact was really overstated if you talk to people that were on the committee. It's something for people to talk about. I'd like to see it be a little bit more transparent, because there's a lot of people not really sure how this is going to play out. But again, Mike, you know me for a long time. I have to keep things simple. It comes down to three things. Who'd you play? Where'd you play him? How'd you do?
Right.
Now, you can put any kind of spin on it you want. You can bring in NASA. You can bring in Bill Gates. You can run all kinds of computer programs you want. It comes down to those three things. Here endeth the lesson.